All right, guys, we have got our New England Patriots in-depth preview here. And yeah, jumping into the AFC East with a team with a lot of hype. And we're going to jump right on through it. We're going to start with the coaching staff and go right through the roster and all that fun stuff we've been doing. So let's start here. Head coach, Vrabel. I'm going to say some things about Vrabel that a lot of people may not like, but he's definitely a gigantic upgrade over what was there previously. So we'll start there. I like Vrabel in terms of, I think he's a really good coach and like man-to-man, player-to-player, getting his guys up and getting them playing, and you know, just one of those coaches that can bring everybody up and playing to their fullest ability. A good man coach, a good rah-rah coach, as people call it. That I'm perfectly comfortable admitting with Mr. Vrabel here. Where Vrabel kind of gets me is the regular win probability adding stuff like fourth down, when to go for it, when not to. And again, I'm not saying that stuff can't grow on him or get better or anything like that. But from the sample we have, it's not fantastic. And also, this happens with a lot of coaches, in particular defensive coaches. A lot of his success came in a time when defense was a little bit more 50-50 in the NFL. It's less so now. It's been a bit since he's coached a really good defense. So I kind of, it's not necessarily like I have to see it and like in a game-to-game basis. It's that it's almost like he has to prove it again to get back to it. Sometimes the game just, especially defensive coaches in particular, the game kind of passes you by a little bit, and the game now is completely different than what we were getting good stuff out of Vrabel last time. So again, I have to see a little bit of it. I have to see the improvement in just the fourth down stuff and the win probability stuff. I have to just see a little bit improvement before I put him in, like a top end. He's still a right around average coach for me. It's not like I have him in the bottom 3 or 4. I don't think that's the case. But he's just in the average spot. And again, a gigantic upgrade over what was there by a genuinely significant margin. Offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels, this is another one I have in the average range, another one where I have to see it a little bit more. He's been not super fantastic outside of Brady and those old Patriots teams and stuff. He had that year with Mac Jones that felt a lot more like taking advantage of a season where not a lot of good offenses played in general. And then it kind of fell back off a little bit after that, and you can blame whatever. It could be Mac Jones or Josh or whoever you want to blame here for that. But again, an average coach. I think these two are average guys. Average coordinator, average coach. And again, it's a pretty significant upgrade to what was. So there's optimism there. But in terms of a ceiling optimism, this is more of a floor optimism for me with the two coaches instead of a ceiling optimism. Like, I can see it being average in terms of scheme, play calling, all that stuff, and being comfortable with that and thinking that probably does not fall off. Like, I don't think there's a tail to the down with Josh McDaniels or Mike Vrabel. I think it's more, I don't know if there's a tall ceiling here with these two guys. But again, we'll see. Vrabel's going to do all the defensive stuff, defensive coordinator stuff. But yeah, again, two average coaches. I'll say this, like I'm going to say this a lot with this team in particular. I think everybody sees that there's been an upgrade here, and again, there's been a significant upgrade here. But because everything was so low on the Patriots last year, I think people are getting a little bit ahead of themselves on what it means. Like, Vrabel is all of a sudden, again, a huge upgrade. Josh McDaniels is an upgrade, but I think we're getting a little bit carried away on what upgrade is here. It's more like 32 to 17 instead of like 32 to 10 if you know what I mean. So it's I think we're just getting a little bit ahead of ourselves with some of this stuff. Again, average coaches to me. Quarterback, Drake May, and Josh Dobbs is the backup. Dobbs is a whatever backup. If Drake May gets hurt here, I don't know how many games we're winning with Josh Dobbs, and he can come in and be serviceable as a backup. But I'm not expecting Josh Dobbs, if he has to come in and play a ton, to be like super great. He had that little run where he won a bunch of games. I forgot where, Minnesota maybe, where the system was kind of nice, but it fell off as it normally does with players who are backups for a reason. Drake May, another one I really like. I think he's my 19th rated quarterback, and there are a lot of things I like with Drake May. He's mobile, a really good scrambler. Takes his angles well on that. A good thrower of the football. But again, he showed some really, really elite flashes last year. But another one, I think we're just a year early here. I still need to see a little bit more from May. And again, we're kind of worried about what's around Drake May, and we'll get into that. I don't love the offensive line, and the pass catchers are better because Diggs is here, but after that, it's pretty much the same nonsense that it was last year. So again, this year should be about, again, taking steps in the right direction. And Drake May, I expect to take steps in the right direction. Again, he's got some genuinely really elite flashes in there. He throws some really good balls over the middle. He can throw pretty much any pass. Again, he's underrated athleticism, I guess. Really athletic. His scrambling is really good. Just the open field running is really good. Everything there is really, really good. And again, I think Drake May ends up becoming a good quarterback. I just think, again, we're a year early, and I think we're getting ahead of ourselves from what we saw last year. I think we've turned elite moments into, all of a sudden, is he going to, like, expecting, like, top 13 or 14 QB play here? And I'm not so sure we're going to get that. I really like the future of Drake May and stuff. Again, I don't know how many times I'm going to say this here. I like where this is going, and I like the future of where these things are. I just think we're slightly ahead of time here, and I think we're slightly ahead on Drake May as well. But again, Drake May right now would be, if we were picking to win this year, I'd pick Drake May as the second quarterback out of last class. We'll see what happens with Caleb Williams. He still has the talent. And if we were doing some like futuristic stuff, maybe Caleb Williams, because, you know, I'm not going to get super out of control in a couple of dysfunctional places, but he played the second best of the quarterbacks last year, behind Jaden Daniels. So again, I think his ceiling is really high just as a player overall, but I'm not so sure we're there yet. Running back, this is an interesting room. Ramondre Stevenson, solid. One of those running backs who we've talked about a lot. There are a couple of them floating around the NFL. Not a ton of explosiveness, but they're going to get you your yards, your 3, your 4s. Antonio Gibson is a pretty good addition. A good third down back. Travion Henderson, I like. I like both the running backs out of Ohio State, and I think they're going to be good. But in terms of projecting him forward, I can't do anything. I can't say he's going to be really good or really bad or anything like that. So you're hoping he turns out good. He's talented, and I think he'll fit in here. And if I personally made a guess, my guess is that he's starting here next year, ahead of Ramondre Stevenson, or even moving Stevenson on. But again, I think Henderson ends up taking this job at some stage. He's very talented. So I'll like the running back room more as the season goes on than I do at this very moment. Wide receiver. Yeah, an interesting group. Another group I think people have slightly gotten ahead with Diggs. Again, I think Stephon Diggs is a really good player. But we can be honest about Diggs. He's 32, coming off a bad injury. And whether he's ready for week 1 or not is apparently it's like 70-30. He probably plays week 1. But it's still a wide receiver, your best wide receiver, making cuts and doing all that fun stuff off a knee injury. So I'm not expecting Diggs to hit the ground running necessarily, but I expect him to be fully good by the end of the year. And again, he's a huge step up here. This wide receiver room was not good before he showed up. It's still probably not good, but you get a really good player into the room and you get yourself a nice safety blanket on the outside for your young quarterback. So I like the move. Pop Douglas, Demario Douglas is here. He showed some flashes last year. We'll see if he can go ahead and step up a little bit more now that he's not the number one, and he's probably going to be working on 2 corners and 3 corners a little bit more. Mac Hollins is a blocking wide receiver, big old boy, but not a receiver I'm banking on for, getting a bunch of targets or anything like that, but should help in the run game and screen game and stuff like that. And then it's kind of a bunch of players who maybe have potential to get good, but at the moment it's kind of leaning toward a probably not. Kyle Williams, Keyshawn Butte, Kendrick Bourne, who used to be pretty good and is kind of falling back a little bit. Jalen Polk in his next year after having a bad year last year. So Diggs is obviously very good. Douglas showed some flashes, and the rest you're kind of just hoping 1 or 2 steps up. And again, there's potential here, but potential that hasn't really been realized up to this point. So until we see it, it's probably just non-existent. And we may get there, we may not, we'll see. Don't love the room again, but adding a really good wide receiver to your young quarterback's wide receiver core is a pretty good step. Tight end, Hunter Henry here, Austin Hooper. I'm not as high on Hunter Henry as everyone else seems to be, I guess. I think he's an average tight end. I think he's a little bit higher on everybody's radar because he gets so many targets because of how little pass catching even floated around this team over the last year or two. Again, he's solid, nothing crazy. Again, I think he's just, in that 16th area. I think in a regular offense, he's probably not getting a ton of looks. And in this next year, he may not get as many looks with Stephon Diggs and Henderson and maybe a step up from Pop Douglas and stuff like that. Again, solid, nothing particularly great. And I think more of a product of just the touches and stuff like that. He's not really someone who's going to get out after the catch. He's not really someone who's going to force himself open. You can see a lot of that with QBR toward targets toward Hunter Henry. I think he just got force fed a ton. And again, he's an average tight end. So he's going to get his catches, but again, he's not going to get a ton of separation. He's not going to get his yards after catch stuff. So again, average tight end for me. Offensive line, a bit of an issue for me. Last year was the worst in the league by a bit. It was very, very bad. They go in and draft Will Campbell early in the draft. What were they picking? 3rd, 4th, 5th? Top 5-ish. Forgot where they picked in the draft, but you bring in Will Campbell, who's going to be left tackle, rookie left tackle, which is not necessarily dangerous, but it probably has a lot of ups and downs coming in terms of just the offense in general as the year goes on. It sounds like his run blocking is really, really great. It sounds like in camp he's eating people up in the run game, and the pass game's a little bit more iffy. Again, he's a rookie. I'm not even going to hold him to low standards, really. But just you expect him to get, or hope he gets better throughout the year as he goes, and you expect him to have things he works on. But right off the bat, if he's not pass blocking well, could be an issue. You get Cole Strange in there, Mike Onwenu. They're okay. Nothing great here at the guard spot. Garrett Bradbury comes in. There's a reason he was a free agent, and it's because he was pretty horrible last year. He was bottom 4 in tight ends. He was 35th out of 39 tight ends who got genuine snaps last year in terms of pass blocking. He was really bad. Run blocking stuff was okay, but nothing great. He had a really bad year last year, Bradbury. Morgan Moses coming off some injury stuff. And even before that, wasn't playing particularly well, just outside the top 50 on, obviously PFF's not the end-all be-all. I have to say that a lot, but outside the top 50 on PFF and tackles, outside the top 50 on my stuff for tackles. So I don't love this offensive line. I know guys have come in, and Bradbury comes in, and Will Campbell comes in, but if Will Campbell comes in and he's not like elite right off the bat, then you're looking at another really bad offensive line, which is a worry behind, with a young quarterback in behind, continuing to play behind a bad offensive line. Obviously, you had Stephon Diggs, and you're hoping you can get some quick separation and you can kind of bypass the offensive line blocking for long stretches if you can. But again, a bad offensive line is potentially obviously very problematic. So it's a roster I don't love the roster. Again, average at tight end. Wide receiver outside of Diggs is just bad, like as a group. Diggs is solid, but again, older, coming off bad injury. So we'll see there. Running back room's about average. Quarterback is right about average. We had him at 19, right about average. And again, very young and things like that. Again, I think we're just a year ahead here in terms of this being a good team. Defensive line, not too bad. Edges, don't love the edge department. You got Kason in there, Landry in there, Keon White, who you're hoping for like another step out of. Him and Will Campbell have been going back and forth at camp, it seems. Jennings is in there. So the edge group is like bottom 10-ish. It's not a great edge group. It's like kind of deep in terms of like, I don't know how you describe the depth here. Like they're all kind of similar players, but none of them are really that good kind of depth. The interior is really good. Like if we were just grading the interior, we're talking top couple. It's really, really good. Barmore's back after his blood clots from last year. Hopefully he just steps in and is good to go when he's healthy. He was excellent. You bring in Milton Williams from the Eagles, who is also really excellent. Tonga in there with some depth, some threes in there on the line. So the interior is really good. The problem again is a little bit on the edge, which makes it like for me, I think it was 13, 14, 15 on the defensive line in that area, because the edge group is blah and the interior is excellent. Like if you can find a really good pass rusher here, really elevate this defense and this defensive line a pretty tremendous amount. But until then, you got a lot of okay on the edge and a lot of really good on the interior. So hopefully they're good run blocking or run defending, and hopefully they can maneuver some interesting blitzes or anything, kind of trying to steal their way to the quarterback a little bit. Linebacker, really good unit again. Top 3, I think I had him 3 in the league. Spillane comes in, who's an elite run defender. Tavai he had an interesting year where it ended really well in terms of just overall grade, and most of the time he was really good. He had that like stretch in there where he was really bad, but still everything else for the most part outside of that weird little stretch was really excellent. Another really good player, you got Ellis in there, Gibbons in there, who are really solid, like genuinely solid. Some of those guys should be starting other places probably. That's how good they are comparatively. So not only is this linebacker room really good, but if it were to lose somebody for the year, like Spillane were to drop, obviously not hoping for any of that, Tavai were to drop, or one of them were to be playing poorly, you can just slot one of the backups in there and it's probably still a really good unit. So a really good unit here at linebacker. Secondary is a top 10 unit for me, top 5 for others, which is perfectly okay. Very, very good unit. Gonzo was really great last year as a rookie, stepped right in and was playing well. I think he's going to be a top 5 corner, and you might argue that he's a top 5 corner now. I'm not quite there yet. Last year in coverage, he was closer to 20 than he was to 10, which is, again, perfectly fine for a rookie, and you assume he steps in again after his injury layoff last year, comes back and gets right back to it again. I think this ends up being a top 5 corner by the end of the year. For sure, Carlton Davis comes in. He's really good still. Top 30 corner probably. Jones is solid, nothing crazy. Peppers and Duggar are a good safety group. Peppers, there was a time there, especially on the Giants, you saw flashes that were really good as a Giants fan, and some other places, but he's really continues to play well. My issue here that keeps this team from going a little bit higher is I'm a little bit lower on the depth than I think other people are. Alex Austin, I don't think is that good. He's the next man up at corner. Hawkins is okay. Epps has been bad. I keep hearing Epps is just in there, and I don't think Epps is any good anymore. That undrafted rookie last year, Pettis, who was pretty solid. So hopefully, if something happens to one of the safeties, you do have someone who can step in there and like not let the level fall off. Like if I'm seeing Epps in the starting lineup, like I'm assuming it's a step back from what they normally run out there. If I'm seeing Pettis in there, probably not as much. So it completely depends on a variety of different things. Camp seems to be a bit of a battle for those positions. So again, the top 5 or 6 on the unit are really, really good. Top 5, 6, 7 in the league. So a really good secondary. So again, I think the only thing missing from this defense being like top 5 elite is probably just a really good pass rusher. Because everything else is really good. Again, the interior is really good. Linebackers really good. Secondary is really good. It's just missing some good pass rush, which can bring the team down a little bit probably if you're running a lot toward the edge or if you're just getting way more time to throw. The corners can't cover forever. They're just going to get beat after a certain amount of time, regardless of how good the secondary is. So I think they're really close. I'm not sure Micah Parsons gets moved. I'm pretty sure he doesn't get moved. I'm annoyed I didn't bet it yesterday that he didn't get moved because it's out of range now. But like someone like that would come in and really, really turn this defense into something elite. So yeah, a really good defense, or I expect a really good back end of the defense, and my worry will be the pass rush here. Offense is a little bit more of a worry for me. Average probably is where we're at. Bad offensive line. Again, Diggs is good. I expect Drake May to be pretty good. Running backs room's all right. Tight end room's all right. So we'll see. Again, I think we're just a year early here, is my main thing. Everything, they've been some upgrades, some big upgrades, but the floor last year was genuinely horrible. So I think people are just expecting, because of we'll talk about the schedule in a minute, the schedule not being so good, and you get upgrades places, that this is all of a sudden a 10-win team. I'm not so sure, but we'll see. But let's jump through the schedule because it is comfy. You get Las Vegas at home to start, at Miami, who we'll see with Miami. They seem to be falling apart in the secondary. Pitt at home, Carolina at home, and then you get, this is a tough little stretch here, at Buffalo, at New Orleans, at Tennessee. Buffalo's obviously really difficult. New Orleans and Tennessee aren't great teams, but we're talking second road game in a row, third road game in a row, traveling 3 weeks running. Cleveland at home, Atlanta at home, at Tampa's difficult, Jets at home, at Cincy's difficult, Giants at home before the bye, and then a pretty tough stretch to end the season. Buffalo, at Baltimore, and then 2 division games, at the Jets, home to Miami. So it's a comfy-ish schedule again, but I don't think the team is that good overall. So despite the fact that the schedule is really comfy, like this is one of those schedules like you're clicking one seed on, like if this is a Detroit or a Philly or a Buffalo or whatever. But again, I still think that I don't love the roster here, and I don't love some things, and I got to see some more in some other places. I think we're a year early. I really like where this is going in terms of everything. I like the way they're building the team, but you're building off a pretty bad team overall, and I think we're a year early here. So we have 3 bets. They're negative ones, unfortunately. Patriots to miss the playoffs at -155. That is a $1.81 bet for our challenge. Patriots under 7.5 wins at +180. That is a 55-cent bet. Patriots under 6.5 wins at +320. That is a 35-cent bet. Just gone down the negative ladder a little bit. I don't want like regular negativity here. Like their regular win total's 8.5. The schedule's easy. So what I do want is just like tails to the under, if we're gonna go about it that way. And we have a couple of them there, and we'll see what happens. I'm happy to be proven wrong all the time, and I know not every one of these things is super positive. There have to be bad teams and negative reviews and previews and stuff, and it has to happen. And I'm sorry if I annoyed some of you, but again, I just think we're a year early here, and we'll see. But those are the New England Patriots.